Look who just stumbled into greatness. Welcome. If this is your first visit, tap that subscribe button like it's the last cookie and share this video with someone awesome. Tell me in the comments, which city or country are you watching from? I seriously love hearing from you. Let's get into it. The flash drive reminded me of decay, buried deep in my locker, a silent menace encased in matte black. I came across it early Tuesday, right after my shift ended, wedged between my scuffed thermos and a pair of gloves stiff with dried sweat. No name, no message, no sender, just a nameless shard of plastic that felt disturbingly heavy for something so small. Around me, the hospital basement carried on its usual mechanical symphony, pipes clicking in protest, boilers groaning in rhythm, vents releasing breath like machines dreaming. I'd spent 22 years working in this underworld, repairing what the rest of the hospital forgot existed. 2 decades of shadows and solitude. I should have tossed it into the nearest garbage bin, but I didn't. Instead, I slid it into the dusty USB port of the outdated desktop in the maintenance office. The screen flickered, then automatically loaded a video player. I froze, hand hovering above the mouse, a cold unease sliding down my spine like it knew something I didn't. That sixth sense you develop when a room's too quiet or a sensor's too still. Still, I pressed play. The image was fuzzy, but the setting was unmistakable. A tired motel room with yellowed wallpaper, the kind printed with roses so dark they resembled old bloodstains. A woman lay stretched across the bed, her auburn hair catching the glow from a bedside lamp. Melissa. My wife. The man next to her wasn't me. He looked to be in his 30s, tattoos winding down his arms, wearing a grin that made me nauseous. Their bodies moved together in a rhythm that wasn't hesitant or new. It was comfortable, rehearsed, intimate. The timestamp marked the footage as 3 months old. But the familiarity between them hinted at something far older. Abruptly, the screen went dark. Then white text filled the void. This is just one. I know about the rest. Pay $50,000 or it all goes public. You have 72 hours. A phone number followed. I leaned back, lungs heavy despite the basement's chill. The rest. Not a one-time betrayal, not a mistake. Multiple, repeated. The word hit harder than the image itself. Strangely, I didn't shake. That caught me off guard. 23 years of marriage, 2 kids in college, a home that needed roof repairs, retirement plans sketched out over old wine and mortgage bills, all of it crushed into a silent 8-minute clip, and I didn't flinch. I played the video again, this time watching with intent. I took in everything, the sickly wallpaper with its blood-red roses and the odd stain above the bed, a blotch shaped like Texas. I'd seen that before. I knew that room. Half a year earlier, I'd worked a job at the Riverside Motel. Their laundry system had gone haywire, and I'd spent 3 long days fixing it. Room by room, vents, wiring, duct systems. I even remembered joking with the manager about that wallpaper. Said it looked more like a crime scene than decoration. Now, it was one. I copied the video onto my personal flash drive, erased all traces from the office computer, and listened as the old fan whirred to life like it was taking a breath for me. Above ground, the hospital was bustling. Doctors saving lives, nurses comforting patients, janitors wiping away blood. Down here, I was making a plan. First stop was Pete Kowalski, the manager at Riverside. He recognized me instantly. Hard not to. I'd saved him thousands on that laundry overhaul. "Ethan, what brings you back?" he said, eyebrows raised. "Something acting up again?" "Yeah," I lied, raising my toolbox like a prop on a stage. "Heard there's an issue with hot water in the East Wing. Thought I'd check the main valve." He gave a shrug. "Be my guest." "You probably know the guts of this place better than I do." He wasn't wrong. I knew where the weaknesses were. The faulty wiring, the outdated systems, the places the cameras couldn't see. And I remembered another detail. Pete had installed a cheap security system after a robbery 2 years ago. Poor angles, cheap wiring, all bark, no bite. Room 237, that was the one. I knocked softly. No response. Then used a bypass trick I'd picked up over the years, one of the little perks of working behind the walls people forget about. The room had been turned over by housekeeping, but the decor was unmistakable. Yellow wallpaper with red roses. The same water stain still hung over the bed like a ghost refusing to move on. I unpacked my tools and crouched beside the piping, though that wasn't why I was here. The real target was digital. Pete stored guest logs electronically, and his system wasn't exactly Fort Knox. His password was practically an open door. It was amazing how careless people are with data they think no one will ever need. While my tablet appeared to run diagnostics, I searched through past reservations, comparing names and dates to Melissa's girls' weekends and sudden work trips. And then I saw it. October 15th, 2023, room 237, guest name, Kyle Brandt. Melissa had told me she was in Phoenix that weekend, visiting her sister. December 3rd, 2023, Ronald Hale, room 215. Melissa claimed she had an essential conference in Denver she simply couldn't miss. February 18th, 2024, Dean Collier, room 203. That aligned with her so-called spa weekend with her college girlfriends. April 22nd, 2024, Brent Ralston, room 237 again. She told me she was out helping her mom pack up the house. June 8th, 2024, Victor Shaw, room 189. That was the corporate retreat she fabricated from thin air. August 14th, 2024, Joel Barris, room 237 once more. Another one of those ladies-only Vegas trips. 6 names, 6 hotel reservations, 6 separate lies wrapped in just enough truth to slip past my notice. While I was elbow-deep in tangled wiring or soaked in boiler leaks down in the hospital's underbelly, Melissa was slipping away, 40 minutes out of town, to sleep with other men. I'd spent decades repairing things no one else cared to see, and in that darkness, I'd missed what was coming apart above me. When I mapped it all out, the patterns came sharply into view. Her new health kick began right around the time Joel Barris showed up. Ronald Hale's appearance coincided with her newfound interest in old-school muscle cars. Dean Collier, who happened to work construction, appeared just as she got obsessed with hands-on home improvement. Every man didn't just offer her physical comfort. They gave her hobbies, identities, reasons to vanish. Each affair left a footprint in her behavior. I printed the list, every encounter, every location, and quietly folded the pages into the bottom of my toolbox, beneath the socket wrenches and wire cutters. An hour later, Pete stopped by while I was wrapping up an actual repair. "You get it figured out?" he asked. "Yep," I replied, snapping the lid of the box shut. "Found exactly what I was looking for." Later that night, I parked across the street from the Riverside Motor Lodge and waited in the dark. Room 237's window gave off a dull yellow glow beneath the dripping streetlight. At exactly 11:47 p.m., a motorcycle pulled into the lot. I recognized the cocky posture instantly. Kyle Brandt, the blackmailer. He approached the door with one quick knock. It opened instantly, like Melissa had been waiting just behind it. I didn't sleep that night. I spent it making decisions. Kyle Brandt lived in a crumbling duplex by the river, an eyesore left to rot since the Reagan years. Finding his address took little effort. Guys like him don't believe in covering their tracks. His motorcycle was parked beside a rust-eaten pickup, the metal flaking like diseased skin. Thursday evening, I knocked on his front door. He answered in worn jeans, a filthy tank top, and the exact smug expression I remembered from the footage. "Yeah?" he said. "You Kyle Brandt?" "Depends who's asking." "Ethan Carrick. You sent me a little something recently." That smirk widened. "Well, I'll be damned. Didn't think you'd come all the way out here. Come on in, man. Let's talk business." His place smelled like oil, stale beer, and old smoke. Motorcycle parts were scattered across every surface. The coffee table was buried under empty bottles, looking like a battlefield after a losing fight. Kyle dropped into a recliner that probably came with the place when it was built. "Want a drink?" "No. Suit yourself," he said, raising his bottle like a toast. He took a gulp and leaned forward, eyes glittering. "So, you saw my little home movie?" "I saw it. Nice and sharp, huh? Spent real money on that camera. HD's worth it. Makes your wife really pop on screen." I kept my tone even. "You want 50 grand?" "That's just the opening bid," he said. "But since you came here instead of calling the cops, I figure you're willing to deal. Maybe we can settle this like grown men." "You're not wrong. I came to talk. That's how reasonable I am." He gave a dry laugh. "Cops won't help you. There's no crime here. Your wife's not under duress. She makes her own calls. Extortion's still a felony." "Good luck proving that," he said with a lazy shrug. "I didn't ask for money. I just gave you a heads up. What might happen if certain videos went public? Purely hypothetical. First Amendment, baby." As he spun his garbage version of legalese, I let my eyes scan the apartment. Food containers, back issues of biker magazines, and a messy shelf near the TV covered in DVDs marked with handwritten labels. I couldn't read them from where I sat, but something about them made my stomach tighten. "You said there were more?" He grinned like a wolf. "Oh, there are. Your lady's been keeping busy, but right now it's just you and me. You pay, I vanish. Clean and simple. And if I need proof you're not bluffing?" "You want a sample?" he said, getting up. "No problem. First taste is free. Then you buy the box set." He crossed the room and rifled through the DVD stack. I counted 4 labeled with Melissa's name. Others had different names, different women. This was no fluke. It was a system, a scam he'd perfected. He slid one disc into the player. The screen came to life, and there she was, Melissa. But this time, she wasn't with Kyle. She was with someone else, a man I didn't recognize, older, balding. "Last year," Kyle said. "That one's Victor Shaw. He lived just a few blocks from us. 3, maybe 4. Divorced, alone, the kind of man who practically advertised his vulnerability." Kyle skipped ahead in the footage with a few flicks of his finger. "She's got a pattern," he said quietly. "Goes for men starving for affirmation. She gives them attention, makes them feel important, then hooks them in. Classic manipulation tactic." The detached way he spoke made my chest tighten, but I didn't stop watching. I needed the full truth. "How many?" I asked. 6, counting me. "Well, 5, plus me. I'm in a different category." His laugh was jagged and mean. "I'm the one operating the camera." A door creaked somewhere deeper in the duplex. Footsteps echoed on tile. Then Melissa stepped into the hallway, wearing nothing but one of Kyle's shirts. The moment she spotted me, the color drained from her face. "Ethan, how did you—" Kyle cut her off. "Sit down. Your husband and I are mid-negotiation." She glanced from him to me, her expression bouncing between panic and defiance. "You're not supposed to be here." "Really?" I said, low and even. "Is this off limits? Some sacred space? Your secret temple?" "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple." I stood up. Kyle's body stiffened in anticipation. 23 years of marriage, 2 kids, a life built brick by brick, and you threw it away for what? A string of meaningless affairs? "They weren't just— that's not what it was." "Then help me understand." But she didn't answer. Maybe she couldn't. She stood frozen, draped in another man's shirt, in another man's home, after over 2 decades of lying to me with a straight face. Kyle cleared his throat like he was resetting the scene. "Sentimental moment, sure, but we've still got matters to resolve." I looked around the room. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment operation. There were light kits partially hidden behind thrift store curtains. Tripods leaned in corners. Recording gear stacked in plastic crates. This wasn't passion, it was production. You record everything. "Call it insurance," he replied, shrugging. "People drop the masks when they think they're alone." He pointed toward a shelf stacked with neatly labeled discs. "And they'll pay a fortune to keep those masks from cracking." "And if I don't pay?" His grin stretched, all teeth. "Then the world gets a front row seat." your employer, your kids, your friends. The internet never loses its memory, Ethan. Once she's online, she's immortal. I stepped toward the entertainment unit and picked up a DVD case. Joel Barris, I read. Her trainer at the gym, Kyle confirmed. A textbook narcissist. She led him to believe she'd dump you for him. I grabbed another case. Ronald Hale. Carlotte Romeo. Thinks she's still shopping for a new ride and maybe a new life. Another one. Brent Ralston. High school sweetheart, rekindled at your reunion. Very romantic. Kyle studied my reactions, enjoying every flicker of recognition. Every one of them thinks they're special, chosen, unique. I pulled out one more disc. My hand went still. Dean Collier. That name struck a nerve. I remembered him. She mentioned him once. Some contractor from a fundraiser. I'd even met him at a company event. He's clueless about the rest, Kyle said. They all are. That's how she keeps it going. Every guy believes he's the only one. He crushed his beer can with one hand and tossed it aside. Your wife's a chameleon. She adapts the fantasy to fit each mark. Gives them just enough to feel needed. I replaced the discs carefully. You mentioned I had 72 hours. Correct. 50 grand and everything vanishes. I turned to Melissa one final time. She wouldn't meet my gaze. I'll reach out, I said, then walked toward the door. Behind me, Kyle called out with that same smug amusement. Smart move. Family beats ego every time. He had no idea how much truth was buried in that statement. I took a week off the job. After 22 years in hospital maintenance, I had enough accrued time to disappear for a bit. Told my supervisor I had urgent personal matters to deal with. That wasn't a lie. The first man I tracked was Ronald Hale. Kyle pegged him as a car dealer, and there he was, working the lot at Premier Auto on the south end of town. I watched him for 3 days, took note of his routine. Coffee like clockwork at 7 a.m., work from 8 till 6 days a week. Tuesdays and Thursdays, gym sessions. Fridays, drinks at Murphy's Bar. On Wednesday, I finally made contact. Walked into the dealership, said I was in the market for a pickup. Ronnie Hale? I asked at the front counter. That's me, said a voice from behind a row of SUVs. Late 40s, shirt slightly rumpled, a bit of a paunch pressing against his belt. He smiled and held out a hand. What brings you in today? We spent the next hour going over used trucks. He knew his job, charming, knowledgeable, assertive, without being aggressive. In a different timeline, under different conditions, I might have even liked the man. Married? He asked, his tone casual, as we leaned over the hood of a Ford F-150. 23 years, I said evenly. Lucky guy, he replied, flashing a lopsided grin. I'm flying solo, more or less. That smile shifted into something more private, like we were co-conspirators. There's this woman I've been seeing. She's married, he confided, his voice dropping to a confidential murmur. Look, I know how that sounds, but her husband's trash. She deserves better than what she's stuck with. My hand stayed planted on the warm hood of the truck. Is that so? He nodded, a touch of admiration in his eyes. Yeah, total knockout. Auburn hair, razor sharp. Met her at a fundraiser last year. Sparks flew instantly. He scanned the area, then leaned in slightly. I don't normally get involved with married women. But this one? Different story. She's even talking about walking out on the guy. Sounds complicated, I said. Life's complicated, he shrugged. Sometimes you've just got to take a risk. He gave the truck's fender a firm pat. Same with this beauty here. She won't last long at this price. Got another buyer swinging by Friday. I kept up the act for another 20 minutes, asked the right questions, nodded at the right moments, pocketed his business card, and promised to think it over. Once I hit the parking lot, I took out my phone and called the number Kyle had left on the flash drive. This is Ethan Carrick, I said. Let's finish this. Tonight. Same place. There was a pause on the other end. You bringing cash? Kyle asked. No, I said, I'm bringing questions. Questions don't pay bills. Answer them well enough and maybe they will. He agreed to meet at 9. I spent the rest of the day preparing. The duplex hadn't changed since my last visit, but now I noticed new details. The cameras mounted on nearby houses, all angled just right to catch activity at Kyle's front entrance. His motorcycle kept rotating spots, sometimes on the curb, other times a few doors down, either careless or far too confident. He opened the door wearing the same wrinkled clothes from before. "You got my money?" he asked immediately. "You got my wife?" I shot back. "Working late." "Unlike us, she's got a real job," he said, stepping aside. "You got questions?" "Start talking." This time I sat on the couch, leaving him standing. Power dynamics matter, even in dumpy rentals. "Ronald Hale thinks Melissa's about to leave me for him," I said flatly. Kyle let out a short, humorless laugh. "They all think that." "All of them?" "Well, not every single one," he admitted. "Victor Shaw's just lonely since the divorce. Dean Collier? He knows she's taken. Says that's what makes it exciting." He wandered over to the fridge and popped open another beer. "But Ronnie and that teacher, Joel? They're the dreamers. They think they've got something real." "Joel Barris?" I asked. "Yep. Teaches high school. Coaches wrestling too. Thinks she's trapped in some sad, miserable marriage." Kyle scoffed. "Shows what he knows." I took in the names quietly. "What about Brent Ralston?" I asked. "Oh, that's textbook," Kyle said, dropping into a recliner. "They dated in high school. Reconnected at their 25-year reunion. Haven't stopped seeing each other since. About 18 months now. Regular meetups. Twice a month, give or take. She's still seeing all of them?" "Like clockwork," he said with a smirk. "Dean's the only one who's been MIA business trip. The others, still rotating in. Melissa's planner's tighter than a Fortune 500 execs." His tone was casual, but my stomach turned. This wasn't some whirlwind romance. It wasn't even reckless infidelity. It was organized, systematic, cold. "How long has this been going on?" I asked. "That depends," Kyle said, taking a drink. "You mean the hookups?" "Years, probably." "The footage?" He gestured toward a pile of equipment in the corner. 18 months or so. Once I figured out the pattern, I started recording. Call it blackmail, leverage, protection, doesn't matter. He motioned to a nearby shelf loaded with DVDs. "She's not the only one in this town doing extracurriculars. I could retire off this archive alone." I stared at the collection. Dozens, maybe more. Each disc labeled, each cataloged. Kyle wasn't just a sleazy observer. He'd built a business model out of betrayal. "What makes you think I won't report you?" I asked quietly. He didn't even flinch. "Because if I go down, I drag everything with me. The whole town gets an eyeful. Your boss, your neighbors, maybe even your kids." He took another swig from the bottle. "Sure, I end up behind bars. But your whole life goes up in smoke. 50 grand's a bargain compared to what a divorce will cost you." His math wasn't wrong, but his assumptions were. "I'll need time to come up with the money." "How much time?" "Week, 2 at most." He stared at me a second, then gave a single nod. 2 weeks, that's your window. Add 60 grand for interest. You get how this works," he said. I gave a slight nod and stood. "You'll hear from me." "Smart man," he replied. "Family's what really matters, yeah?" I didn't answer, just turned and walked off. Still, he wasn't wrong. Family did matter, and I'd protect mine with everything I had, but not by writing checks. That Saturday night, I parked a few streets over from Kyle's place and waited in the dark. At 8:47 p.m. sharp, he rolled out on his motorcycle, most likely headed to Murphy's, the usual dive for the town's single bitter crowd. I waited 20 minutes before moving in. His duplex sat at the very end of a cul-de-sac near the river. No passing cars, no lights, no nosy neighbors. The perfect location for Kyle's kind of shady business. Also perfect for what I was about to do. I'd never been formally trained in breaking into homes, but after 20-plus years in maintenance, I'd learned how to get through locked doors without drawing attention. Frozen plumbing, electrical failures, busted water mains. I'd had my fair share of quiet entries. As for Kyle's security, it was laughable. A flimsy deadbolt and a bargain bin chain lock on the back door. I pulled out a bump key I'd kept from an old job and had the door open in under 3 minutes. Inside, The place felt tighter than I remembered. Claustrophobic. The air was thick with the stench of cigarettes and grease. I moved slowly, snapping pictures, floor plans, furniture, electronics, closets stuffed with DVDs and surveillance gear. The heart of his setup was in the bedroom, a computer tower surrounded by stacked drives and coiled cords, top-tier hardware. This wasn't some hobbyist gig. He'd spent real money, serious money. When I powered up the system, it didn't even prompt for a password. Kyle clearly thought no one would ever come close. The desktop was obsessively neat, folders named by date, location, and woman. Melissa had her own directory, with subfolders named after different men. I hooked up my portable drive and started downloading everything. The files were enormous: videos, stills, spreadsheets, notes. Kyle didn't just film, he documented. He recorded patterns, weaknesses, personal details. It was a playbook for psychological leverage. While the data transferred, I examined the rest of his setup. Tiny cameras hidden in vents and picture frames, all wired to motion detectors. A backup system captured footage automatically. Every corner of his operation was covered, both for insurance and control. By 11:23 p.m., the transfer finished. I now possessed Kyle's entire collection, every encounter Melissa had with 6 different men, along with evidence from at least a dozen other affairs going back 2 years. I could have walked away right then. Maybe I should have. But I didn't. I went deeper. In a drawer, I found a stack of legal papers, not threats, real contracts, signed agreements, payment plans, itemized terms. This wasn't blackmail, it was a business. Kyle ran a service for women who wanted affairs, whether to manipulate legal outcomes or just to flirt with danger in a controlled setting. Every step was documented. One contract stopped me cold. Melissa's name, her signature, dated a year and a half ago. It read like a professional agreement. Kyle promised to screen partners, manage schedules, secure private locations, and provide full documentation. In return, she agreed to pay a retainer plus bonuses depending on results. This wasn't just betrayal, it was premeditated. My wife had hired someone to choreograph her infidelity. At 11:41 p.m., I heard the front door creak. Keys hit a table. Heavy steps echoed on hardwood. Then the fridge door opened and shut. Kyle was back, probably ready to edit footage or collect payment from his latest satisfied client. I stayed put in the bedroom, the external hard drive snug inside my jacket, scrambling to find a way out. The window was a drop of at least 10 feet onto unyielding pavement, not ideal by any stretch. The only exit opened directly into the living room, where Kyle was pacing. Neither route offered much hope. Footsteps approached, close, fast, maybe 5, 10 seconds. The closet door was ajar, revealing shelves cluttered with surveillance equipment and folders of incriminating material. I slipped inside and eased the door toward shut, leaving just enough space to breathe and maintain a sliver of vision. Moments later, Kyle walked in, still wearing his coat, and sat at the computer. He jiggled the mouse. The monitor blinked to life, showing the same desktop I had been combing through just 30 minutes earlier. He leaned in, scanning the display, and clicked into the list of recently accessed files. I'd wiped my trail as best I could, but if he knew where to look, there was still a risk. Luckily, technical savvy wasn't his strong suit. After poking around aimlessly, he double-clicked on a video file. As soon as Melissa's voice echoed from the speakers, I felt sick. He watched intently, then clicked into another recording. And another. He wasn't just reviewing the content, he was reliving it, indulging in it like a miser admiring his hoard. At precisely 12:15 a.m., he shut down the system and shuffled off to his bedroom. I remained hidden for another 60 minutes before slipping out the back, silent and unseen. Once back in my truck, I plugged in the portable drive and browsed the copied contents. Everything had transferred flawlessly. Kyle's entire cache, names, footage, documentation, agreements, was now mine. An entire arsenal of blackmail, preserved in crystal-clear resolution. 6 men stood one click away from public disgrace. And if I wanted to, so did my own marriage. But I didn't need to destroy everyone. One target would be enough to take back everything he'd stolen from me. The path forward was becoming clear. By Monday, I was back at the hospital, clocking in like nothing had happened. Same flickering basement lights, same ancient HVAC systems, same invisible routine. But beneath the surface, everything had shifted. Now I possessed Kyle's empire, his leverage, his files, his power. I held the trigger. The only question left was how to pull it. I started small, subtle, anonymous emails impossible to trace, short, precise, lethal. Dean Collier's wife got an email packed with images of him and Melissa, along with Kyle's detailed notes chronicling their affair. She filed divorce papers that afternoon. Joel Barris's principal received a delivery, video footage of Joel with a married woman, plus timestamps proving he used school property to orchestrate the entire thing. He was placed on suspension before lunch. Victor Shaw's ex-wife was sent solid proof he'd been unfaithful during their marriage, not just afterward, as he had always insisted. She reopened the divorce case, this time seeking a far more aggressive settlement. Brent Ralston's girlfriend received an anonymous tip that Brent had never truly cut ties with his high school sweetheart. She walked out immediately. Ronald Hale's boss at Premier Auto was informed, complete with screenshots and receipts, that he'd used company resources to carry out his affair. HR wasted no time. Each message ended the same way. More documentation available upon request. By Wednesday, 4 of the 6 men had tried to reach Melissa. I knew, because I had tapped her calls. After the second day, she stopped answering. Then Thursday arrived. Kyle turned up at the hospital. No warning. I was elbows deep in a boiler repair when security radioed me. "Ethan," said the guard, "there's a guy here. Says it's a family emergency." "Send him down," I told him. 10 minutes later, Kyle trudged in. The swagger was gone. His face was scratched and bruised, one eye swollen nearly shut. He looked barely able to stand. "What the hell did you do?" he snapped. I didn't look at him, just focused on the repair in front of me. "Fixing a heating coil." "What's the problem?" "Don't play dumb," he growled. "My stuff's been leaked." "Oh?" I said, casually standing up and adjusting my grip on the wrench. "Sounds like a data breach." "A breach?" He nearly choked on the word. "Dean Collier and Victor Shaw cornered me outside Murphy's. They beat the hell out of me, said I ruined their lives." I shrugged. "Sounds like they're upset about something." "They're furious because someone sent their wives evidence," he hissed. "Stuff that came straight from my files." Kyle took a step forward, clearly hoping his size would intimidate me. "You were the only one who could have accessed those files," he said, voice sharp with accusation. I slowly lowered the wrench to the ground and looked him straight in the eye. "Are you accusing me of theft?" "I'm not implying anything," he snapped. "I'm telling you outright. You broke into my place, copied my files, and now you're systematically tearing apart my entire setup. That's quite the allegation. Got anything to back it up?" His expression darkened, that one working eye blazing with fury, but he didn't reply. Maybe a forensic sweep would have revealed my digital trail, but by the time he thought to try, the damage had already been done. "This is what's going to happen," he said after a tense pause. "You're going to pay me what you owe, and extra for the mess you've made. Otherwise, those videos of your wife go public first thing tomorrow." I nearly chuckled. "Which set of videos are we talking about, Kyle?" "You know damn well which ones. You mean the ones with Melissa and Dean Collier, the guy whose wife already filed for divorce? Or are you referring to Joel Barris, who just got suspended from his job? Maybe Victor Shaw, the one facing legal hell from his ex?" I casually lifted my toolbox. "Those clips, you mean?" A flicker of panic crossed Kyle's face. He was starting to understand. "They've already lost everything," I said calmly. "Their families, their jobs, their reputations, gone. And if those videos see daylight, how do you think they'll react? You think they'll let it slide?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. "They'll come after you," I continued, as if commenting on the weather. Dean works with his hands. He's got access to tools that don't forgive mistakes. Victor's garage is full of heavy equipment, and his truck's covered in NRA decals. Joel's no stranger to grappling. He trains teenagers to break bones for sport. Kyle started inching toward the door. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" I said. "Two of them already roughed you up, and that was before they knew about the surveillance. What do you think they'll do when they realize you were filming them too? You planning to extort them next?" "I never—" "Your records say otherwise," I cut in. "Detailed notes on each guy, what they owe, where they're vulnerable, what buttons to push. You weren't just filming, you were gathering leverage." I took a step closer. "And you chose me to start with because you thought I'd be easy." The husband, emotionally unstable, willing to pay to protect my pride. Whatever false bravado Kyle had left evaporated. He no longer looked like a threat, just a petty con man who'd gotten in over his head. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. "I want every file, every backup, anything involving Melissa, gone. No exceptions." "Fine, done. And I want you out. Leave town, erase yourself, start over somewhere far away. And if I don't, then tomorrow morning I hand everything to the right people. Ronald Hale's employer gets an anonymous drop about your blackmail. The authorities receive a full report. Most importantly, Dean, Joel, and Victor each get a neat little package, including your address." He stood there, silent. The posturing was gone. What was left was fear, raw and unfiltered. For the first time, he saw the reality of what he'd triggered. "This isn't over," he muttered. "It is now." He turned and left. I returned to work like nothing had happened, clocked out at the end of the shift. Business as usual. By the time Friday rolled around, a package had shown up for me at the hospital. Inside was a hard drive and a single handwritten note. "Everything erased. I'm gone. Don't follow." I plugged the drive into the maintenance office computer and checked. It was all there, uncut, unedited. Every clip, every document, every image. Kyle hadn't held anything back. He'd turned over his entire archive, a silent confession and a signal that he was done. That night I destroyed the drive. Saturday morning, after I got off work, Melissa was waiting for me in the kitchen. "We need to talk," she said softly. She looked worn out, like the past week had taken years from her. The sharp confidence she once carried had faded, replaced with something much smaller. "Talk about what?" I asked. "About us, about everything." She gestured toward the coffee pot. I made some. I poured myself a cup and took a seat across from her, the same table where we'd spent 23 years building a life, one breakfast at a time. "Kyle's gone," she said. "I know. The others, their lives are falling apart." "I heard about all of it too," she said quietly, her gaze lost in the spiraling coffee inside her mug. "Dean's wife left with the kids. Joel's out of a job. Victor's about to go bankrupt." Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "They've all fallen apart." "They made their choices," I replied. "So did you." She nodded, her voice hushed. "I know." We sat without speaking. The silence between us stretched on while the world outside kept turning. Kids laughing on front lawns, neighbors heading out into the morning light, the rhythm of ordinary lives moving forward. After a long pause, she spoke again. "What happens now?" "I've already filed," I said. "No fault, irreconcilable differences. You'll get the paperwork on Monday." Her eyes snapped up, panic flashing across her face. "Ethan, don't do this," she pleaded. "We can fix it. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes." I kept my voice calm. "Melissa, it's been 23 years. You slept with 6 men. You even brought Kyle into it, paid him to coordinate your affairs." I placed my coffee cup gently on the table. "There's nothing left to repair." Her head shook slowly, as if denying her own actions. "It wasn't supposed to turn into this. It just spiraled." "No," I said. "This wasn't a loss of control. You contracted someone to record what you were doing. That's not a spiral. That's deliberate." Tears spilled down her cheeks in slow, steady lines. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered. "But you did. I answered softly. Again and again. For 2 years you made that decision. I pushed back from the table and stood. I'll be at the Hampton Inn until the house sells. My lawyer will handle everything else. As for the kids, they'll figure it out in time. I won't turn them against you, but I won't cover for you either. She stayed seated, weeping quietly into her cup, which had long gone cold. A part of me wanted to reach out, to offer a hand, to search for some shred of what we once had. But that part of me had been fading for a long time. Monday arrived, and the divorce was officially filed. By Tuesday, a full cash offer came in on the house. On Wednesday, the news broke. Kyle Brandt had been found dead in a Detroit motel room. An overdose, they said. I didn't feel a thing. He'd chosen his own path. Thursday evening, I was finishing the last of the packing when Melissa appeared in the doorway. I saw the news about Kyle, she said quietly. I kept loading boxes into the truck. Seems like it's going around. She hesitated. Did you? But she cut herself off. I didn't look up. Did I what? Never mind, she murmured, letting the question fall away. She helped me carry the final boxes. We worked in silence, the only sounds being footsteps on pavement and cardboard thumping into the truck bed. When everything was loaded, I slid into the driver's seat. She knocked gently on the window. Ethan, she said, her voice trembling. I'm sorry. For all of it. I lowered the window halfway. I know, I said. Does that mean anything? I paused. 23 years, 2 children, a life we built, undone by choices we couldn't undo. Not today, I said at last, maybe not ever. Then I shifted into drive and pulled away, leaving her standing in the driveway of the house we once imagined growing old in. In the rearview mirror, her figure shrank until it disappeared. I headed to the hospital. My shift was starting. Boilers needed checking, pipes needed fixing. Things fall apart, and for 22 years I've been the one who puts them back together. But some things stay broken,